I would like to share with you today two of my prized possessions. First, the horns of the first deer I ever killed when I was 9 years old. Second, the mounted of the largest deer I've ever killed. I was 15 when I killed this 8-point at my deer camp near Lexington, Mississippi. What I'd like to tell you today is about deer taxidermy, which is the process of how my deer head was mounted. Mississippi taxidermist Rick Davis calls it bringing your items back to life. Back in the 1800s, hunters began bringing their trophy animals to upholstery shops where the upholsterers would screw the animal's skins up and stuff them with rags and cottons according to the taxidermy net. It was not until the early 20th century that taxidermy began to evolve to its present form with correct details down to the animal's muscles, tendon that portrayed the animals with uncanny lifelike accuracy. I can assure you that this mounted deer looks just like the deer when I first saw him in the woods. So how did the taxidermist go about restoring my deer this lifelike trophy? First step actually began with how I preserved the deer in the woods once I decided it was the prized kill that I wanted to have mounted. The better care the hunter takes with the deer in the woods is easier job for the taxidermist and less expensive on the cost. First, my brother and I drug the deer out of the woods using our four-wheeler, taking great care to protect the head. Once back at the camp, we hung him on the skinning rack. Without being too graphic, we removed the guts and the meat that we would later have processed into tenderloin, steak, and sausage. It is recommended to take to the taxidermist more of the deer hide than it would seem you would need, so we left a long cape attached to the head. Once the deer is delivered to the taxidermy shop, there are 5 steps to mounting the deer, as explained by Caleb Cook of Trapping and Taxidermy. The first step is to prepare the cape of the hide. After skinning it, all the fat is removed in a process called fleshing. When you skin the cape, you also skin and save the ears. After fleshing the cape, it must be salted, pickled, and then tanned with chemicals, all of which are to preserve it from decomposing. Once it has been tanned, it is tumbled and fluffed. Mr. Cook has a setup in which a motor turns a drum half full of sawdust where he tumbles the cape. The sawdust loosens the skin and makes it more flexible. The second step is preparing the form for the head and shoulders, which will hold the skin. The form is a thick type of styrofoam which is cut to shape and, if needed, sanded with sandpaper. Once that is done, you insert eyes made from marble. Clay can be used to hold the eyes on and to provide support around them. Once the form is ready, the third step is to put on the skin. Before applying glue to the form, you should test fit the antlers and the skin to make sure that they fit well. The ear liners should go in next. They are glued on. Then check the cape for any bullet holes or cuts, which should be sewn up. Finally, spread the adhesive on the form and carefully attach the skin. Attaching the antlers is the fourth step. The antlers are attached with 3 screws that go from the skull to the wood piece on the form. You should cut holes in the remainder of the skull so the screws do not crack it. After test fitting the antlers to the head, tighten the screws and glue the antlers on with Bondo. Once it dries, the Bondo should be sanded smoothly. Finally, the last step to the mount is to sew up the skin around the antlers and down the back. Face features will need to be adjusted to look lifelike. It is helpful to have a photograph of the deer before it was skinned. Pins will need to be inserted where necessary to hold the skin in place. Complete the fastening of the cape by nailing the skin to the wood plate on the back of the form. The nose and eyes should be painted for proper coloring. The mount might also need some touch-up paint. While the skin is drying, brush the hair and do any other visual effects to improve the mount. You should allow 3 weeks for the mount to completely dry. As you can see, taxidermy is a long process that requires a lot of skill and is truly an art to the individuals who do the work. Having mounted trophies can be an expensive hobby. Having horns mounted like these can be done for less than $100, but because of the skills required, the cost for having a deer mounted can be expensive, often going over $1,000. In addition to the base cost, there are often add-on costs such as repairing a broken skull plate, excess repairs due to bullets, repairs to broken antlers. However, I'm fortunate that my brother has taken up taxidermy for his family and friends, and he does an excellent job, so I'm all set to add to my collection when I bag the next big buck.